Part in Vernier's account. Vernier's Alicia Somarin, once a wealthy imperial chronicler, is now enslaved by Valerians following their invasion. He is presented to General Reklar Tokrev and his wife Fornella, who purchased him for his scholarly value. Ordered to write an account glorifying the general's victory over the Realm Guard at Cumbrel, Vernier reluctantly complies, hiding his hatred. Fornella shows interest in him and commands honesty about the battle, learning it was won through betrayal and numbers. The next day, Vernier is brought to witness the Valerian siege of Altar, a city never before conquered. The general outlines his strategy to breach the walls with Kuridai forces, while praising their enemy's skill and mentioning a mysterious witch leading their defense. Fornella subtly challenges the general, hinting at power dynamics between them. A boat arrives carrying a grim, unnamed man who terrifies both Valerians. He approaches Vernier and demands to know the location of Vaelin Al Sorna. In Chapter 1, Riva follows a tall man she recognizes as Vaelin Al Sorna, once known as the Darkblade. Sent on a holy mission to reclaim her father's sword, she attempts to assassinate him at night but fails, overwhelmed by his superior skill. Instead, Vaelin confronts her calmly, offering food and revealing he did not kill her father. He proposes a deal. She may learn the sword's location if she travels with him disguised as his sister until they reach Varenshold. Reluctantly, she agrees. Along the journey, Vaelin fashions a bow, showing both survival skill and patience, while Riva wrestles with her faith and hatred. They discover the remains of a murdered family, pushing Vaelin to seek justice in the nearby town of Ransmill. There, he reunites with Janril Norin, a former soldier turned minstrel. While Vaelin plans restraint, Riva exacts brutal vengeance on the outlaws, highlighting their starkly different codes. In Chapter 2, Frentis, enslaved and bound by magical scars, fights in Valerian pits where his skill impresses a mysterious woman. She reveals she controls his binding and spares him, dressing him as a journeyman escort for travel. They cross the desert, and Frentis executes a spy on her orders at an oasis, further proving her power. After days of travel, they arrive in Myrtesk, where she owns a grand home guarded by Kuritai. Inside, Frentis meets a gray-clad man posing as Karel Teklar, who speaks realm tongue and knows of his past, revealing himself as a messenger working against the realm. The man provides a list of targets and cryptic instructions involving South Tower, a whore, and a plan to harm Vaelin Al Sorna, then poisons himself. The woman remains composed, controlling Frentis through his scars, and orders him to join her for a bath, signaling he is now fully under her command. In Chapter 3, Vaelin continues traveling with Riva and Janril Norin's troop while secretly training Riva in archery and swordsmanship, sensing her inner turmoil and devotion to her mission. In Varenshold, Vaelin visits his childhood home and reunites with his sister Alornis, now a talented artist struggling to keep the decaying house. Riva's temper flares at Alornis' praise, revealing her suppressed emotions. Later, Vaelin encounters Lucius Alhestian, a drunken poet and old friend, now living with Alornis to protect her from threats, including extremist ardents. Vaelin learns of political unrest, King Malseus' reforms, and rising religious tensions. Brother Canis arrives, now commander of the Sixth Order, and shares sorrowful news of Barcus' death, but their reunion turns bitter as Vaelin rejects the faith and the Order, declaring his love for Sharon and his disillusionment. Canis warns that Aspect Tendris wishes to meet Vaelin and hints at Frentis' survival, deepening Vaelin's resolve to uncover the truth. In Chapter 4, Princess Lerna travels north through the Skellen Pass with her guards, escorted by Brother Commander Solus to meet the Lonak High Priestess. They encounter Devoka, a fierce Lonak warrior sent to guide Lerna. Initially imprisoned for attacking a brother, Devoka joins their group and proves bold and skilled, teaching Lerna knife-throwing and sharing cultural customs. The journey reveals the realm's weakened defenses and deepens Lerna's suspicion about the High Priestess's motives, though she senses opportunity in the meeting. Memories haunt her. She recalls defying her father's dying wish to rule by marrying Vaelin, instead accepting Alpiran peace terms. As the group travels deeper into Lonak lands, Lerna earns Devoka's respect and gains insight into Lonak culture. One night, Lerna dreams vividly of her father's death and the political sacrifices she made, only to awaken abruptly to Devoka's knife at her lips, signaling an immediate threat in their camp. In Chapter 5, Frentis remains under the control of the mysterious Valerian woman, posing as her husband as they travel south through Valerian lands toward the Alpiran border. Along the journey, she reveals her connection to Savarak Aventir, a legendary Valyrian general claiming to be his daughter. They witness harsh slavery, including a brutal auction, and cross the river into Alperin territory through a dangerous marsh once scorched by war. In disguise, they infiltrate Alperin towns and plantations, acquiring clothing and supplies, while the woman manipulates and dominates Frentis, forcing him into intimacy and obedience. Their journey leads to Hervelis, where she tasks him with an assassination. Together, they infiltrate a temple and kill Revik, an old seer, who briefly frees Frentis and warns him the seed will grow before dying. The woman drinks Revik's blood, gains fire-wielding power, and sets the temple ablaze, showing Frentis the terrifying magic and cruelty granted to her by the ally. In Chapter 6, Vaelin visits the king's notary to acquire a warrant of acknowledgement for his sister Alornis, securing legal recognition of their family bond despite the king's previous seizure of their father's estate. He finds Alornis working on a royal monument with Master Benril, who agrees not to oppose her departure. Vaelin is soon summoned to the palace, where King Malcius restores his titles and expresses concern over threats to the throne, including faith factions and political plots. Malcius reveals that Princess Lerna is negotiating peace with the Lonak, aiming to rebuild and unify the realm. Vaelin requests permission to leave the realm to search for Frentis, but the king refuses and appoints him Tower Lord of the Northern Reaches, replacing a deceased predecessor. Vaelin accepts, guided by the Bloodsong's affirmation that this path leads to Frentis. The chapter sets Vaelin's return to power, political intrigue, and his next mission in the north. In Chapter 7, Princess Lerna's camp is ambushed by the Centaur elite Lonak warriors. Devoka saves her life, and in the battle, Brother Herval is killed. Lerna learns Devoka's sister Karal leads the Centaur, having been changed by a mysterious force. Despite heavy losses, Lerna insists on continuing north with a small party. Devoka, Lord Marshal Smolin, and brothers Solus and Ivern seeking answers from the Malessa. They evade pursuit through dangerous terrain, encountering giant apes and ascending the volcanic mouth of Nishuk, where Devoka times an eruption that destroys their pursuers. The group descends the north slope, but Lerna becomes dangerously ill from exposure. They seek refuge in a nearby Greyhawk clan village, where tensions rise, but Lerna earns respect with her bold words. Devoka's influence secures them shelter as Lerna collapses from exhaustion. The chapter highlights Lerna's determination, Devoka's loyalty, and Kirill's ominous transformation, while setting the stage for revelations from the Malessa. In Chapter 8, Riva struggles with guilt, faith, and her growing connection to Alornis while wrestling with her mission to kill Vaelin. As Vaelin prepares to take the Tower Lordship of the Northern Reaches, tensions rise when Aspect Tendris publicly tries to recruit him back to the faith, escalating into violence when Riva exposes an assassination attempt. They depart Varenshold with a mounted guard escort, visiting the Sixth Order, where Vaelin spends hours in private discussion. Later, he fulfills his promise to tell Riva the truth about her father's death, revealing that her mission was a manipulation by her father's followers, intended to make her a martyr and fuel hatred against him. Vaelin confesses he was guided to protect her by his Bloodsong, but Riva's faith and trauma drive her to attack him. Though she wounds him, she cannot kill him and flees in emotional turmoil, rejecting his plea to join them. This chapter deepens Riva's inner conflict and sets her on a fractured path. In Chapter 9, Frentis continues his forced mission with the Valyrian woman, who dominates him through the binding. Haunted by her cruelty, he notices an itch at his scar that signals resistance to her control. Together, they travel through the 12 Sisters, systematically assassinating key figures prophesied to become future heroes against the Valyrian Empire, including magistrates, soldiers, and innocents. She reveals the killings are based on decades of scrying, intended to ensure Valyrian dominance. Their mission leads them to Alpyra, where their final target is Lady Emran and her young son. During the infiltration of her heavily guarded villa, Frentis's scar pain briefly overpowers the binding, allowing him to free Emran and the boy. The woman engages in a deadly fight with guards, using devastating fire magic that leaves her severely weakened. Frentis rescues her amid the chaos, fleeing the burning villa on horseback. His resistance to the binding grows, foreshadowing his struggle for freedom. Part 2. In Vernier's account, Verniers is interrogated by a foul-smelling Valyrian agent seeking Vaelin Al Sorna's whereabouts. Verniers admits Vaelin is in the northern reaches but offers no details. The agent departs, warning that defeating Vaelin will not be easy. Soon after, General Tokrev launches an assault on Altor, sending waves of soldiers and siege weapons. Despite breaking through the walls, defenders retreat to fortified barricades, inflicting heavy Valyrian casualties. Tokrev halts the advance, vowing to burn the city at night. By evening, Altor burns under relentless attacks, its cathedral and streets engulfed in flames. Verniers records events aboard Tokrev's ship, observing Fornella's disdain for the destruction. She reveals that the foul-smelling interrogator was an unnatural entity, a shell, harboring something monstrous, and expresses regret over Valeria's secrets. She questions Verniers about Vaelin, signaling growing curiosity about him. The chapter emphasizes Altor's fall, Valyrian ruthlessness, and hints at supernatural forces aiding their campaign. In Chapter 1, Vaelin Al Sorna travels with his sister Alornis to the northern reaches, bringing her for safety as threats from a dark entity persist. He recounts his past and the truth of his blood song to her, revealing its dangers and fading visions of Sharon. They arrive at the North Tower, where Lady Darena Almerna and Captain Adalzinu greet them cautiously. Vaelin senses distrust, but is intrigued by Darena's influence and respect among locals. He begins learning about the region's politics, resources, and resistance to realm authority. Darena shows Vaelin a mine, revealing vast secret gold deposits hidden to prevent realm exploitation. Trusting Vaelin, she accepts his offer to serve as first counsel, and he plans to inform the king cautiously. As they conclude their inspection, Captain Adal delivers a scroll confirming a shocking development. The Ice Horde, believed destroyed, has returned. This marks a looming threat and sets the stage for conflict. In Chapter 2, Lyrna recovers in the Greyhawk clan's village under Devoka's protection, facing hostility but earning a complex respect. Alturk refuses to send warriors to escort them, revealing tension over the Melessa's orders. Lyrna departs with Devoka, Solus, Ivern, and Smolin, only to be ambushed by the Centaur. Alturk arrives with his warriors, saving them and capturing his traitorous son and Devoka's sister Kiral. That night, Alturk is judged weak for hiding his son's betrayal and is sentenced to death, but Lyrna intervenes, claiming him as her prisoner to honor his aid. His son is executed, and Alturk is disgraced but spared. As they travel north, Kiral reveals herself as a zealot and self-proclaimed true Melessa, taunting Lyrna and Devoka. The group reaches the mountain, an ancient Lonicum stronghold where Lyrna is summoned by the Melessa. Kiral panics, begging for death, revealing fear of what awaits her below as they descend into the Melessa's domain. In Chapter 3, Riva flees Vaelin, determined to find the truth and reclaim her father's sword at the High Keep. She travels south, acquiring a fine bow from a shepherd and surviving off the land. Along the way, she encounters a family captured by Fourth Order brothers and rescues them in a brutal fight, leaving one surviving brother paralyzed as a warning. She escorts the family to safety, gaining the loyalty of Arkan, their son, who chooses to travel with her. Riva trains him in combat during their journey toward the Grey Peaks, developing a cautious bond. Upon reaching the High Keep, they meet Vantil, a caretaker who grants them entry. Riva searches the chamber where her father was martyred, but finds no trace of his sword, realizing it may have been taken by the Fief Lord in Altor. Determined, she prepares to rest at the keep and plan her next steps. In Chapter 4, Frentis hides with the woman after her violent collapse, nursing her back to health despite his hatred and the Binding's control. They travel through Janellis, where Frentis steals enough wealth to pose as a married couple and sail to Marbellus. There, they infiltrate the criminal underworld, extract names through torture, and hire a smuggler to take them to the realm. After murdering the crew mid-voyage, they land secretly and travel to South Tower, where a Cumberland priest delivers information. They are to kill the Tower Lord of the Southern Shore and his wife. Disguised as beggars, they attack during an almsgiving, but the mob intervenes, nearly killing the woman before she uses her gift to burn her attackers and escape with Frentis. They flee through the sewers, hunted by guards, and Frentis silently mocks her madness, reflecting on the contrast between a hungry beggar and a sated slave, showing his growing defiance despite the Binding's control. In Chapter 5, Vaelin learns from Captain Adal and Darena that a vanguard of 4,000 Horde warriors has crossed from the ice, prompting preparations for war. He leads the North Guard and King's Guard north to aid settlements, gathering intelligence and securing defenses. The Yorhil arrive with over 2,000 riders pledging support. As they search, Darena's gift, spirit walking, guides them to Stillwater Creek, where they find not a hostile army but starving refugees, the Bear People. Through visions shared by their shaman, Vaelin learns they fled Valyrian riders, lost their beasts, and seek only peace. Vaelin orders rations shared, cancels the muster, and sends the Eorhil home, though Inshakaforna stays with Captain Orvin. Later, Dorena confides her spirit-walking gift's history and its role in stopping the last Horde attack, while Vaelin shares his Bloodsong secret and encounter with Nursus Sil Nin. The revelations deepen their bond, and Sanesh names Vaelin Avensura Bright Star, symbolizing peace. In Chapter 6, Lyrna descends into the mountain with Devoka, Kirill, and the Malessa, witnessing the exorcism of the creature possessing Kirill. The Malessa reveals her centuries-long life, her struggle against three powerful entities serving a master in the void, and her plan to form an elite center force under Alter. She shows Lyrna a vast archive of Lonicum knowledge and gifts her a poisoned knife, a treaty ending the war, and insights into her prophetic visions. Lyrna senses the Malessa's dual nature, shifting between an ageless leader and a fearful girl named Helsa. After securing the peace, Lyrna begins her return journey, training with Devoka and learning about Frentis from Brother Ivern. At the Skellen Pass, she learns of Cumbralan fanatics attacking Tower Lord Albera and Vaelin's appointment to the Northern Reaches. Later, Fief Lord Darnell confronts her with veiled threats and obsession, which she rebuffs, redirecting her escort toward House Banders, foreseeing growing unrest within the realm. In Chapter 7, Riva and Arkan travel to Altor, where she plans to infiltrate her uncle Fief Lord Muster's manor to recover her father's sword. She disguises herself as a servant and hides overnight inside the manor, later finding the sword displayed in a practice room. Discovering a murdered servant, she realizes the sons of the Trueblade are inside to assassinate Mustor. Riva intervenes, killing one attacker and saving her uncle, while Lady Velis fights fiercely but is struck down by the priest leading the assassins. Riva wounds the priest, who escapes through a window as guards arrive. Recognized by Mustor, she is spared as he calls her by name, signaling a family connection. The chapter reveals Riva's growth as a fighter, the son's ongoing threat, and her complicated ties to her uncle and Velis while escalating tensions between faith-driven extremists and political leaders. In Chapter 8, Frentis and the woman hide in the wild for days, evading the South Guard as she reflects on her failure and obsession with fulfilling the Allies' plan. They travel cautiously toward Varenshold, disguising themselves as escaped slaves. Along the way, she reveals their cover story and the depth of her devotion to the Allies' scheme. Arriving in the city, they meet with Kuritai forces preparing to attack the palace and the Sixth Order, with plans for hundreds of soldiers to join the assault. A treacherous noble demands Princess Lyrna be unharmed and secretly placed in his care. Later, Frentis and the woman board a Valyrian ship carrying 300 Kuritai and confirm the fleet's imminent attack. Disguised, they stage an act as stowaways and are publicly rescued, allowing Lord Al Telnar to escort Frentis to the king as a hero. Powerless under the binding, Frentis silently prays for death as the plan advances. In Chapter 9, Vaelin and his party stay with the Bear People, learning their history through visions from their shaman Wise Bear. They uncover that the Bear People were driven south by Valyrians allied with the Cat People, losing their ancestral lands. Dorena leads the group to Mirror Sound, where the Bear People establish a new settlement symbolized by the birth of a child named Dark Eyes. Before leaving, Wise Bear warns of a massive Valyrian army marching south toward the realm. Vaelin travels to Naren's Point to consult Harlock, a disgraced Seventh Order scholar. Harlock admits to orchestrating the assassination attempt that killed Vaelin's brother, believing a prophecy foretelling Vaelin's corruption. Vaelin spares him, but appoints him archivist of the North Tower. As they depart, Vaelin collapses from a powerful Bloodsong vision of flames and destruction, seeing Lyrna's face formed of fire, screaming, foreshadowing devastation, and Valyrian plans against the realm. In Chapter 10, Princess Lyrna visits Baron Banders, uncovering his daughter Ulyss's secret son Arundel, fathered by Fief Lord Darnell. Fearing Darnell's influence, Lyrna arranges to take Arundel to Varenshold for royal patronage, ensuring his protection. After returning to the capital with Arundel and Devoka, Lyrna learns brother Frentis has miraculously returned and attends the king's audience. In a shocking betrayal, Frentis kills King Malseus, triggering chaos as his Valyrian companion unleashes devastating fire magic, slaughtering the queen, royal heirs, and many lords. Lerna's thrown knife disrupts the binding on Frentis, killing him, while Al Telnar attempts to intervene and is killed. The woman, enraged, targets Lerna directly, engulfing her in flames. The chapter ends with Varenhold in flames and the royal court in ruins, signaling the Valyrian plan's success and the start of a devastating assault on the realm's leadership. In Chapter 11, Frentis regains his freedom when Lerna's order knife shatters the binding and heals his scars, though he is wounded. Amidst the chaos in the throne room, he kills the Valyrian assassin and sees Princess Lerna engulfed in flames before she flees. Realizing a coordinated Valyrian invasion is underway, Frentis arms himself, fighting Kuretai throughout the palace. He encounters Lord Marshal Smolin, who dies after directing him to Lerna's rooms and witnesses Varenhold overrun by invading troops. Frentis rescues Devoka and Arundel, convincing them to escape rather than search for Lerna. They navigate the palace sewers, encountering Ratter and Draker, old underworld figures who join them. Choosing a dangerous escape route, they emerge from a harbor pipe under enemy fire, dodging ballista bolts from a Valyrian ship. Despite the danger, Frentis's defiance shows as he taunts the enemy, determined to turn the invasion into the Valyrian Empire's downfall. Part 3. In Vernier's account, Verniers recounts being interrogated by Fornella, the general's wife, about Vaelin Al Sorna's abilities. She shows fatalistic curiosity, sensing the city's fall is inevitable. Later, Verniers attends a Valyrian war council where reports reveal the defenders of Altor have fortified barricades within the city, causing heavy Valyrian losses and slowing their advance. The general, angered by setbacks, punishes officers and demands harsher measures, ordering the execution and mutilation of hundreds of captured civilians to break morale. Verniers compares the siege to the ancient fall of Cathia, implying the defenders' resolve may mirror that legendary stand, unintentionally insulting the general. Fornella diffuses the tension, but the general's cruelty escalates, showing his strategy relies on terror. The narrative illustrates Valaria's ruthless tactics, the defenders' determination, and Vernier's precarious position as a historian-turned-slave forced to chronicle atrocities, while Fornella emerges as a quietly influential yet ominous presence. In Chapter 1, Riva awakens in her uncle Fief Lord Muster's manor after saving his life from assassins sent by the Sons of the Trueblade, the fanatical group that raised her to be a martyr. Muster reveals her family history, formally acknowledges her as his niece, and declares his intent to make her his heir, believing her arrival to be divinely guided. Lady Veliez, his cunning advisor, interrogates prisoners and confirms the son's fanaticism, while orchestrating political maneuvers. Riva meets the Holy Reader, immediately sensing his deceit about the rogue priest who raised her. Though angered, she is persuaded to remain with Muster, who promises to find the priest for her revenge. Struggling with her identity and destiny, Riva plans to flee, but instead encounters a mortally wounded Realm Guard messenger who reveals devastation, claiming, "They killed us all." Riva takes him to her uncle, signaling looming danger and wider conflict. In Chapter 2, Vaelin senses danger and leads his forces back to North Tower, organizing scouts and summoning allies. Lady Darina uses her gift to confirm Valyria has invaded and conquered Varenhold, enslaving its people and killing many. Vaelin calls a full muster, ordering every man of fighting age to join, despite resistance from locals. As the camp swells, tensions rise, and Vaelin encounters Devern, a shipwright seeking revenge for his father's death, but their duel is interrupted by an ambush of assassins. With Norda's help and Snowdance's attack, the threat is eliminated. Capturing one archer, Vaelin uncovers hints of a powerful enemy who can wear men like masks and suspects a connection to a priest. Norta introduces allies with unique gifts: Kara, Lorcan, Markin, and Weaver. Markin uses his ability to identify the masked foe's face. As preparations intensify, Norta takes command of archers, and Vaelin orders the army to march for the realm through the great northern forest. In Chapter 3, Lerna awakens burned and shackled aboard a Valyrian slave ship, realizing the realm has fallen. She meets Iltis, a hardened former Fourth Order brother, and Fairman, a thief and beast charmer, who agrees to help steal the Overseer's key using a trained rat. Lerna quietly recruits fellow prisoners, planning to overwhelm the crew despite their slim odds. When the Overseer discovers their plot, he threatens executions, but the ship is suddenly attacked by massive sea predators Fairman has summoned, causing chaos and damage to the hull. Lerna seizes the chance, frees Iltis and others, and fights her way to the deck as the ship begins sinking. She kills the ship's master, vowing vengeance on Valeria, and escapes with Iltis, Furman, and a handful of survivors in a small boat. Though battered and leaderless, Lerna begins plotting revenge, determined to reclaim power and destroy the empire that enslaved her. In Chapter 4, Frentis, Davoka, Arundel, Ratter, and Draker flee Valerian patrols, heading into the Earlish Forest toward the Sixth Order house. Frentis's wound festers, slowing him down, but they push on and find the Order house destroyed, its brothers slain. Master Greelan rescues Frentis, revealing only a few escaped through a secret tunnel. As Frentis recovers, Greelan confirms the Order has been decimated, and they plan resistance. While scouting with Davoka, Frentis saves Ilian Algervine, a noble girl, from slavers' dogs. Ilian reveals she and other captives were being transported in wagons. Frentis leads an ambush, killing the slavers and freeing 35 prisoners, rallying them to join the fight. Among the rescued is Janral Norin, a former wolf runner, broken and vengeful. With new allies, Frentis begins forming a resistance force, signaling his growing leadership and relentless resolve to strike back at the Valerian invaders. In Chapter 5, news reaches Fief Lord Sentus Muster that the Realm Guard has been destroyed, King Janus is dead, and Varenshold has fallen. Riva, Sentes, and Lady Velis begin preparing Altor for siege. Sentes rallies the city guard, house guard, and newly recruited militias, swelling their numbers to over 13,000, though only half are trained soldiers. Supplies are stockpiled, food and materials seized, and all farmland within 50 miles is scorched to deny the enemy resources. Riva spars with the guards, earning their respect, while Captain Brennan Tesh, a skilled archer, arrives to lead their forces. Scouts confirm massive Valerian forces advancing, and Sentes reveals his failing health to Riva, urging her to become a symbol of hope. Days later, the Valerians arrive with a disciplined host, but no siege engines yet. When their envoy demands surrender, Antesh kills him with an arrow, signaling Altor's defiance and the beginning of its defense. In Chapter 6, Vaelin meets Wisdom, the leader of the Eorhil, and convinces her to ally her riders with him, warning that the Valerians threaten all nations. His army marches south toward the Siorda forest, where Vaelin seeks further allies. He and Darena enter the forest, meeting Hera Drakil, who leads them to a sacred stone used to commune with visions. Vaelin touches it and speaks with Nurses Silnin, who reveals that gifted souls can be trapped and twisted by a malevolent force that hungers for death, though she offers no solution beyond resistance. She warns that her visions end with Vaelin, hinting at a grim future. A great wolf appears, signaling trust, prompting the Siorda to join Vaelin's cause. With strict rules enforced by Siorda guides, the army begins its march through the forest. Vaelin learns of Siorda craftsmanship, their worship of the forest, and their readiness for the coming war. In Chapter 7, Lerna drifts at sea with Iltis, Harvin, Merle, and Benton after escaping the Valerian slaver's ship, haunted by hunger and a persistent shark. They are rescued by Meldonian pirates, and Lerna bargains for all their lives by offering her linguistic skills. She is tasked with decoding a Valerian codebook and interrogates a high-ranking Valerian prisoner, confirming his identity as a councilman's son before killing him to secure leverage. Lerna gains protection by proving she can decipher the code and begins translating vital intelligence, uncovering Valerian plans to assault the Meldonian Isles and occupy the realm's fiefs. She warns the captain, prompting him to race for the Isles. As they sail, storms and tensions erupt, with Iltis injuring a crewman defending her. Lerna reflects on the Valerian plot, Frentis's involvement, and her own transformation into someone capable of killing. Her intelligence becomes the pirates' greatest asset, ensuring their survival and shaping the next phase of resistance. In Chapter 8, Frentis leads a raid to reclaim the Fallen Order house, silently killing guards and freeing tortured prisoners, including the broken but alive Master Rensiel. He discovers Master Greelan's chambers turned into a torture room and interrogates a Valerian prisoner, learning that Aspect Arlen was taken to the city. Returning to camp, Frentis reveals they've grown to over 300 freed slaves and recruits, though few are trained fighters. He begins working with 34, a former Valerian torturer, offering him freedom in exchange for intelligence. They ambush a Valerian slave caravan, using war-trained hounds descended from scratch to annihilate enemy forces and rescue captives, including Arendel's family knight, Sir Ermund Lewin, who confirms Darnell's betrayal. The group fortifies their resistance in the forest with 34, reporting that the Valyrians now know Frentis as the Red Brother and have placed a bounty on him. Frentis resolves to endure, inspire rebellion, and hold out until Vaelin's return. In Chapter 9, Riva witnesses the Valyrian siege of Altor intensify. Antesh and the defenders repel repeated assaults, burning siege towers and cutting down waves of Varitae and free swords. Riva's skill in combat and leadership earns her growing reverence among the soldiers. Inside the city, unrest brews as the Holy Reader's priests demand purging heretics, but Riva dismisses them, refusing to weaken morale. She deepens her bond with Vaelin, who stays loyally by her uncle Sentis' side as his health deteriorates. During another major attack, Riva kills a skilled Valyrian fighter, and the defenders again drive the enemy back. She helps heal the wounded and works with Antesh to reorganize defenses, proposing strategic troop placements. Later, she organizes a daring night raid on the Valyrian slave camp, rescuing over 40 captives, including Realm Guard, and capturing a high-ranking slaver. Determined to send a message, Riva orders his execution, strengthening morale as the siege continues. Part 4. In Vernier's account, the Valyrian siege of Altor drags on, with relentless attacks and cruelty from the general, who forces Verniers to memorize and recite terrible poetry under threat of death. Verniers endures torment and an unsettling encounter with Fornella, the general's wife, who drunkenly reveals she is over 3 centuries old due to a Valyrian bargain granting long life, admitting the supposed power has become a burden. She spares Vernier, dismissing him with weariness. Later, a messenger arrives, and the general, expecting news of victory, instead hears of disaster. A lone survivor of the 12th Free Sword Battalion brings word of a massive realm army, numbering over 50,000, marching quickly toward them. Verniers reads the accompanying letter, a direct message from Vaelin Al Sorna, ordering the Valyrians to surrender and promising judgment for their crimes, signaling a dramatic turn in the siege and the approach of Altor's savior. In Chapter 1, Vaelin leads the army of the north through the ancient Seorda forest, sensing its deep living power and recalling the wolf's past interventions. Dorena reveals her childhood rescue by the wolf, paralleling Vaelin's own experiences. Wisdom shares how a mysterious stone granted her immense linguistic knowledge, hinting at an older power predating current civilizations. Emerging from the forest, Vaelin organizes a 30,000-strong force of Realm, Seorda, and Airhill warriors, marching south into Nilsile. They discover a slaughtered village, prompting a raid that frees over 100 captives, who pledge loyalty to Vaelin. Lorcan demonstrates his ability to evade notice, aiding their success. Soon, they encounter Count Marvin Au and Nilsalen forces, leading to a tense meeting with Fief Lord Darvis, an aging schemer. Darvis agrees to support Vaelin's war against the Valyrians in exchange for control of Northern Reach's gold trade, recognizing Vaelin as the realm's rightful leader as the army prepares for war. In Chapter 2, Lerna travels by sea with Captain Belleroth to the Meldinian Isles, gaining the ship lord's trust by translating Valyrian invasion plans that revealed their intent to enslave the islanders. Her identity as the realm's princess is exposed, and she is placed under guarded hospitality. Shiplord Elnurin warns of an impending Valyrian fleet and seeks her help to rally the Isles. Lerna knights Iltis, Harvin, and Benton as her sworn protectors and names Orena and Merle her ladies, forming a loyal retinue. She journeys to the Wenzel Isle to recruit Atherin El Nestra, the exiled shield of the Isles, whose leadership is crucial. Initially bitter over his defeat by Vaelin Al Sorna and his exile, El Nestra mocks Lerna, but is intrigued by her resolve and mysterious shark ally. She promises him redemption and support if he fights. After a tense exchange, he agrees to join her, setting the stage for a unified defense against Valaria. In Chapter 3, Frentis leads his band of rebels as they train and prepare in the forest, with Ilian proving herself as a skilled hunter and others adapting to survival. Their camp is betrayed by Draker, who is unknowingly tracked back by Renphalan hunters and a large force of Kuritai. A brutal battle ensues with heavy casualties. Master Renseal demonstrates deadly horsemanship, and the Faith Hounds help turn the tide, but many fighters are killed or wounded. Master Grelin reveals himself as an aspect of the Seventh Order, using his powerful gift to save Arundel and Ilian, though it leaves him drained. They capture a Renphalan hunter, learning that Fief Lord Darnell is paying heavily to capture Arundel, his heir. Frentis resolves to protect the boy and move camp quickly. Graelin, disillusioned, explains the greater threat: the mysterious ally, an ancient enemy bent on destroying their land who orchestrated the Valyrian invasion. Despite despair, Frentis presses forward. In Chapter 4, Riva leads the defense of the besieged city as Valyrian forces repeatedly assault the walls. She earns a reputation as the Elvera, feared for her deadly archery and leadership, and inspires hope among defenders despite growing casualties and hunger. During a night raid, Riva and Arkan attempt to destroy enemy siege engines. She burns one, but loses most of her men, narrowly survives, and rescues an injured Arkan. The city celebrates her survival as a divine sign, though Riva feels burdened by false reverence. The Valyrians focus on bombardment, widening a breach while morale declines and supplies dwindle. Riva rallies the people, doubles rations for mothers, and strengthens defenses, yet tensions rise under the reader's radical sermons. After 10 days of bombardment, the siege intensifies, and Riva spots the enemy commander observing her from a warship. The chapter ends with news that Velis and other faithful have been abducted by zealots and taken to the reader. In Chapter 5, Vaelin leads the army of the north deeper into Nilsil, freeing over 1,500 captives, many joining his growing force of 45,000. He promotes Norda to captain, emphasizing training as they march toward Altor. Scouts report a Valyrian cavalry pursuit of Realm Guard survivors led by Canis, prompting Vaelin, Dorena, and the Eorhil to ride through the night. They arrive in time to rout the Valyrians, saving Canis, who is bitter over Vaelin's absence. Canis recounts Lord Darnell's betrayal and the Realm Guard's near destruction. Later, Count Marvin crushes Valyrian infantry, securing weapons but few prisoners. As they march through Cumbrail, Vaelin's army witnesses horrific devastation. Villages burned and civilians tortured, deepening resolve to fight. In Two Forks, they find evidence of mass atrocities, prompting burial rites and grim determination. Vaelin uses psychological tactics, sending a terrified Valyrian captive back to General Tok'rov with a message, signaling his intent to confront the Valyrian leadership directly. In Chapter 6, Lerna joins the Meldanine fleet under El Nestra to intercept the Valyrian invasion near the teeth of Moesis. They discover the enemy fleet is far larger than expected, nearly 2,000 ships, but press the attack. A fierce naval battle ensues, with flaming mangonels, brutal boarding actions, and Lyrna's shark companion wreaking havoc, sinking multiple Valyrian ships. Despite heavy Meldanine losses, they shatter the enemy fleet. A violent storm scatters the survivors, driving hundreds of Valyrian ships onto the Serpent's Tail Reef, effectively destroying their southern division. The Meldanines hunt down remaining ships, though Harvin is killed in the final clash, deeply wounding Arena. After honoring their dead, Lerna shares her vision of strategy with El Nestra, convincing him to sail the fleet up the Cold Iron River to relieve besieged Altor rather than flee. Rejecting El Nestra's offer of escape, she declares her reign has begun, committing herself fully to leading her realm in war. In Chapter 7, Frentis leads his dwindling band through relentless pursuit by Fief Lord Darnell's forces. They abandon the Earlish Forest, evading hunters and slave hounds, but Darnell sets the forest ablaze to flush them out. Graelin uses his power to clear a burning path, collapsing from exhaustion, and the group escapes, losing 5 fighters. They take shelter in northern crags, but are soon discovered by Darnell's knights. Graelin sacrifices himself, bringing down a cliff to crush much of the enemy, enabling Frentis' group to win. Capturing Rikas Wenders, Darnell's chief retainer, they extract intelligence before Ilion kills him, then cremate Graelin with solemn tributes. Marching north, they cross dangerous open country and near the River Ander, but hear an approaching cavalry force. Frentis orders Ilion and Arundel to flee, but they refuse, choosing to fight. Preparing for a last stand, Frentis braces for death until the riders reveal Master Solace alive, leading allies and ready to aid them. In Chapter 8, Riva disrupts the reader's public execution of prisoners, publicly declaring Vaelin Al Sorna's approach to rally the people. Her uncle, Fief Lord Sentis Mustor, kills the reader to save her but is fatally wounded, naming Brador as the enemy priest's master before dying. Grieving, Riva finds comfort in Velis, and together they strengthen the city's defenses, building barricades called the Blessed Lady's Rings. The Valyrians launch relentless assaults using siege engines, fire, and psychological warfare by hurling severed heads. Riva and her allies fight fiercely, capturing and executing prisoners to intimidate the attackers. Despite heroic resistance and tactical withdrawals, the defenders are forced back ring by ring. Arkan dies during the battle, and the defenders retreat to the sixth and final ring around the cathedral, preparing for a last stand. Exhausted but defiant, Riva confesses her lie about a divine vision as storm clouds gather, and hope stirs when something unexpected begins to happen. In Chapter 9, Vaelin's army approaches, besieged Altor, as Kara uses her gift to summon a massive storm to douse the fires. Despite counsel for caution, Vaelin resolves to charge the Valyrian lines to reach Riva. He rides alone into battle, using the blood song to spread terror and carve a path through enemy ranks. Snowdance and reinforcements break the Valyrian line, and Vaelin leads a relentless assault, slaying Kuritai and rallying allies like Hera Drakil's Siorda. Severely weakened and bleeding from overusing his gift, Vaelin fights his way into the devastated city where Siorda warriors crush the final Valyrian forces. Collapsing near death, he finds himself imprisoned in a strange, cold realm with Elvera, a powerful ancient being allied with the ally. Resisting her lure, he escapes as Darina's light pulls him back. Awakening surrounded by Riva, Darina, and Hera Drakil, Vaelin realizes the blood song that guided him his entire life is gone. Part 5. In Vernier's account, the Valyrian army collapses as their forces are routed by green-cloaked warriors and horsemen. Aboard the Stormspite, General Tokrev panics, planning to retreat to Varenshold and annihilate the province later. Fernella mocks him by reading Vernier's satirical poem, provoking Tokrev to attack her. Vernier seizes the moment and kills Tokrev with a knife. As chaos erupts, Meldanine ships ambush and board the Stormspite, slaughtering its defenders. Verniers protects Fornella, knowing her value as a hostage, as arrows rain down and the ship catches fire. After the fighting, the Shield takes command, renaming the ship and awaiting Queen Lyrna's arrival. Lyrna boards with her escort, her scarred face revealed, and accepts the Stormspite as a gift. She greets Vernier warmly, reminding him of their planned meeting, marking her dramatic re-entry into the war and confirming her control over the captured vessel. In Chapter 1, Lyrna arrives at Altor and is welcomed by Vaelin, Riva, and their allies. She holds court, questioning Fornella Tokrev, who reveals the Valyrian invasion was only the first step toward conquering the Alperan Empire, with a second massive wave of forces planned. Lyrna vows to destroy Volar. That evening, she speaks privately with Riva, who recounts how Vaelin nearly died and was miraculously revived by Darina. Later, while walking with Iltis, Lyrna survives an ambush by two assassins, killing one with a thrown dagger while Iltis is wounded. A rope-wielding stranger kills the other attacker, but unexpectedly seizes Lyrna, examining her scars, calling her hurt, and embracing her, burning her with an unknown power. The attack reveals deeper threats even after Altor's liberation and foreshadows the next stage of Valyrian plans, while Vaelin remains weakened and the realm faces a larger war.